Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. Autumn Promise, Episode 3 Final. The Kiss Before Winter. The next morning, the bookstore felt different. The kind of quiet that follows a confession hung in the air, heavy and waiting. The storm had passed, but its ghost lingered in the streets, puddles glimmering beneath the fading orange leaves. Wind chimes trembling as if whispering secrets. Evelyn stood at the counter, clutching a cup of coffee gone cold, staring at the journal page that refused to leave her mind. If she remembers the kiss, the curse will end. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the reflection in the glass, the faint smile, the whisper of her father's voice calling from the other side of memory. Daniel had stayed the night, just in case the storm returned. He sat by the window now, tools forgotten, staring into the street with an expression that looked almost like guilt. Evelyn broke the silence first. "You knew, didn't you?" Daniel didn't turn around. "I didn't know about the curse," he said quietly. "I only knew something bound us, something unfinished." She set down the mug. "You said I made a promise. That I'd find you again every autumn. And my aunt's letter said you were the one who remembers." "What exactly do you remember, Daniel?" He looked at her then, eyes shadowed with something more than sadness. "Everything," he said. "The lake, the fall, the day you left, even the kiss." Evelyn's breath caught. "Kiss?" He nodded slowly. "You were only 9, but you told me you loved stories where magic made promises come true. We were sitting under the oak tree by the lake. You said if two people shared a kiss beneath falling leaves, they'd be tied forever, across time, across memory. You wanted to try it. So we did. And the wind picked up, and you laughed. Then, the ice broke." She felt the memory hit her like a flood, bits and pieces rushing back in flashes. The laughter, the chill of the water, Daniel's voice calling her name, her mother screaming from the shore. Evelyn staggered back, gripping the edge of the counter. "That's when I saw him. My father." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You said he spoke to you before I pulled you out. Said something about a promise that must be kept." Tears blurred her vision. "But he's dead, Daniel. He can't have been there." "I don't think he was," Daniel said softly. "Not in the way you think." Evelyn looked up at him, heart pounding. "Then what was he?" Daniel hesitated, then walked toward her, the weight of his steps slow and deliberate. "Your father and your aunt, they were keepers of this place." The bookstore wasn't just a shop. It was a vessel for stories and memories. Every tale on these shelves carries a piece of someone's heart, someone's life. "Your family protected them." She stared at him, trying to process his words. "Protected them from what?" "From fading," Daniel said. "When people forget stories, they die a second death. Your aunt used to say the cross bloodline carried the gift to hold memories inside stories, to keep them alive. But that gift came with a cost." "What cost?" she asked, her voice trembling. He met her gaze, steady and sorrowful. "Every memory you keep takes one away. The lake, that day, you saw something you shouldn't have. The memory of it was taken from you to keep the magic alive." Evelyn pressed a hand to her chest. "So the reason I forgot everything was because the bookstore took it from me?" Daniel nodded. "Your aunt tried to reverse it, but she couldn't. She thought maybe when you returned, the truth would surface on its own." "And the curse?" she asked quietly. Daniel turned toward the journal lying open on the counter. "That's what she couldn't undo. She bound it accidentally the night you fell. When I kissed you goodbye, before you left for the city, she saw something in the way we looked at each other. She said love that crosses memory isn't natural, it bends the rules of the stories themselves. She tried to separate us, to keep the balance, but instead she sealed the connection deeper. Your memories were erased to keep the curse asleep." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "And now?" He gave a small, broken smile. "Now you're remembering. And the curse is waking." As if summoned by his words, the lights flickered. A cold wind swept through the store, rattling every windowpane. Books slid from the shelves, falling open as though something unseen were searching through them. Pages fluttered wildly, whispering words in voices that weren't their own. Evelyn's heart raced. "Daniel, what's happening?" He reached for her hand. "It's the stories. They're unraveling. If you remember everything, they'll all be released. Every story your family kept safe will fade. Then what do we do?" He hesitated. "There's only one way to end it. You have to remember the kiss fully, every detail. That's what your aunt meant. When you remember, the link between us will break." Her stomach twisted. "You mean, I'll forget you again?" He looked away. "Yes, but the curse will end. The stories will live." Evelyn shook her head. "There has to be another way." "There isn't." She pulled her hand free, pacing the length of the shop. The air around them shimmered faintly, the way heat rises off asphalt. She could feel the pull of the memories now. Flashes of that autumn afternoon, the warmth of Daniel's hand, the way the sunlight had turned his hair to gold. The moment just before the ice broke, when everything had felt safe and endless. Tears slid down her cheeks. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I tried," he said, voice rough. "But every time I got close, the curse pushed back. That's why your aunt wrote those letters. She knew I couldn't say it outright." The bookstore trembled again, and a book fell open at their feet. Inside was a pressed oak leaf, perfectly preserved. Evelyn picked it up, and for the first time, she remembered everything. The lake, the laughter, the promise. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You said we'd find each other again every autumn." Daniel stepped closer, eyes glistening. "And I kept my word." Evelyn looked up at him, her heart breaking under the weight of memory. "If I do this, if I remember the kiss, you'll disappear, won't you?" He didn't answer, but his silence said everything. She took a trembling breath. "Then at least let me say goodbye properly this time." Daniel smiled faintly. "That's all I ever wanted." He reached out, fingers brushing her cheek. The warmth of his touch sent a spark of recognition through her entire body, like the first rays of sunlight after a long winter. She leaned forward, closing the distance between them. Their lips met softly, tenderly, as if the years between them dissolved into the autumn air. And with that touch, the world around them shifted. The lights dimmed to gold. The air grew still. Every book in the shop glowed faintly, the words inside pulsing like heartbeats. The ground beneath them trembled once more, then fell silent. When Evelyn opened her eyes, Daniel was gone. The shop was quiet again, bathed in morning light. The shelves were neat, the air warm and alive. The cedar box lay open on the counter, empty. And the journal's last page had changed. In her aunt's handwriting, a new line had appeared. The promise was kept. "The curse is broken. Let her heart be free." Evelyn stood there for a long moment, tears slipping silently down her face. She didn't remember why she was crying, only that something beautiful and distant had ended. She wiped her cheeks and looked around the shop, her shop now, and smiled faintly through the ache she couldn't name. Outside, the wind carried the scent of oak leaves and rain. A man passed by the window then, broad shoulders, dark hair, a faint trace of sawdust on his jacket. He paused, glancing through the glass as if drawn by something he couldn't explain. Their eyes met for the briefest moment. Evelyn's heart skipped, though she couldn't say why. He smiled politely, gave a small nod, and walked on. Evelyn watched him disappear down the street, a soft smile touching her lips. Then she turned back to the counter, picked up a fallen book, and began to read aloud. The golden leaves outside drifted quietly to the ground, and somewhere, faintly, the wind whispered a familiar word, promise. For more stories, like and subscribe.